Imagine taking a crisp $100 bill in 1971 and locking it inside a steel safe. You didn't spend it. You protected it. You did exactly what you were told was responsible. 50 years later, you open that safe. The paper looks the same, but the grocery store reveals a ghost. Your $100 has been hollowed out. It carries less than 20% of the life energy it held when you locked it away. You didn't lose it in a crash or a robbery. Someone reached into your safe through the fourth dimension and stole 80% of your labor while you slept. This isn't a failure of the system. It's the system working exactly as designed. We're told inflation is like the weather, a natural act of God. We're told a little bit is medicine for the economy. But follow the money and you'll see it's a transfer of wealth. It is the largest silent tax in history, rewarding those closest to the source of money and punishing those furthest away. It's a way to pay for things the public would never vote for if they saw the bill. Let's talk about David. He's 8, running a lemonade stand. He trades his Saturday for $10. While he sleeps, the local bank or government simply prints $10 more and gives them to his neighbor. Suddenly, there's twice the money but the same amount of lemonade. David's labor has been diluted. His neighbor, who did nothing, can now buy half the lemonade in the world. This is the lemonade stand scam, and it is the operating system of the global economy. The math is simple, but the implications are devastating. A dollar is not a constant. It's a claim on someone else's labor. When claims increase faster than work, the value of each claim must fall. But here's the trick. The new money doesn't drop from helicopters onto everyone's lawn at once. It enters through a specific door: banks, governments, and massive corporations. This is the Cantillon Effect. Whoever gets the money first wins. By the time that money trickles down to your paycheck, prices have already spiked. You are the last to receive the money but the first to pay the higher prices. You're being squeezed and told it's for your own good. This isn't just about eggs or gas. It's about your time. If the currency loses 5% of its value every year, you are working 2 weeks annually for free. You are a debt slave running to stay in the same place. To understand how we got here, we have to look at what money was before it became a digital entry. For most of history, money was salt, seashells, or gold. Why gold? Because it was scarce. You couldn't wish it into existence. You had to trade life energy to mine it. Gold was an honest ledger. It prevented kings and politicians from printing their way out of trouble. If a king wanted war, he had to physically take the gold from his people's pockets. This created a natural limit on government ambition and gave the individual sovereignty. But honesty is inconvenient for those who spend what they haven't earned. Throughout history, rulers cheated by clipping coin edges or mixing gold with copper. In the 20th century, we perfected this on a Roman emperor scale. We removed the gold entirely. The turning point was 1971. Under the Bretton Woods system, the dollar was backed by gold. But the U.S. was spending money it didn't have on the Vietnam War and a massive welfare state. When other countries asked for their gold back, Nixon went on TV on a Sunday night and temporarily suspended the dollar's link to gold. That temporary move is now 50 years old. In that moment, the dollar became fiat, money by decree, built on a pinky promise from a group trillions of dollars in debt. When Nixon cut that link, he took the lemonade stand into a world of pure abstraction. No limit to creation. The printing press became the ultimate weapon. It looked like a miracle: easy debt, massive expansion. But increasing money without increasing goods isn't wealth, it's redistribution. Saving became like holding water in your hands. The invisible tax of inflation eats it alive. Every modern economy has a central bank. In the United States, it's the Federal Reserve. The name itself is a masterpiece of marketing because it's neither federal nor does it have any real reserves in the way you and I understand the word. It is a private committee of bankers who have been granted the most powerful monopoly in history: the power to decide how much money exists. If David needs more lemonade for his stand, he has to go buy lemons. If the central bank needs more money, they don't have to buy anything. They don't even have to use a printing press anymore. They simply sit at a computer, type a number into a ledger, and, just like that, billions of dollars are born. Now, you might ask, if they can just create money, why do they still tax us? This is the question that cracks the porcelain on the whole narrative. The truth is that taxes in a fiat system aren't just about collecting money to build roads. Taxes are a way to create demand for the currency. You have to use their dollars because if you don't pay your taxes in those specific dollars, they will send men with guns to put you in a cage. But the real tax, the one that actually funds the government's overspending, isn't the one on your tax form. It's the one happening in the background. It's the inflation caused by that digital printing press. Here is the dirty secret of the central banking system. The government is the world's largest debtor. And if you are trillions of dollars in debt, inflation is your best friend. Imagine you owe someone $1 million. If the value of money drops by half, your debt is suddenly twice as easy to pay off. You are still paying back 1 million units, but those units are now worth much less labor. By inflating the currency, the government is quietly defaulting on its obligations to you. They are paying you back in diluted lemonade while they keep the real sugar for themselves. But where does this new money go first? It goes to the big banks. When the Federal Reserve creates new money, they use it to buy government bonds from the major financial institutions. This is the first stop on the mountain. The banks get the fresh, strong money first. They use it to lend, to invest, and to pay themselves massive bonuses. By the time that money filters down through the system, through the corporate loans, through the stock market, and eventually into the paycheck of a guy like David, it has already pushed the price of houses and assets into the stratosphere. This is why, over the last 40 years, the stock market has gone up while the average person's ability to buy a home has collapsed. The system is injecting liquidity at the top, which inflates the price of everything rich people own, while the lemonade stand workers at the bottom see their costs rise faster than their wages. This isn't a mistake. It's the Cantillon Effect in action. Then there is the 2% inflation target. You have probably heard the talking heads on the news mention it, as if it were a law of physics. They speak about it with reverence, suggesting that if we don't have prices rising by at least 2% every single year, the entire global engine will die. It is presented as the sweet spot for a healthy economy. But why would any rational person want the money they worked for to lose value every single year? If you had a car that lost 2% of its fuel every night while it was parked in your driveway, you wouldn't call that a healthy car. You would call it a leak. You would call a mechanic. The 2% target is perhaps the most successful piece of financial propaganda ever devised. It is not designed to help you. It is designed to sustain a system built on infinite debt. If inflation were 0%, the government would have to pay back its massive debts with expensive money, money that is just as hard to earn tomorrow as it is today. But at 2% inflation, the value of that debt is quietly eroded. Over 30 years, a 2% annual inflation rate will destroy nearly half of your purchasing power. The ideal state of the economy, according to the people in charge, is one where half of your life savings are mathematically guaranteed to vanish by the time you reach retirement. This isn't a bug in the software. This is the software. The choice of 2% is a psychological calculation. If inflation were 10%, you would notice it immediately. You would see the price of bread jumping every month, and you would be in the streets demanding change. 10% is loud. It triggers a revolt. But 2% is quiet. It is slow enough that you can't quite feel it day to day. You just notice that your grocery bill is a little higher, or that the car you wanted is now out of reach. You don't blame the committee in the marble building that is diluting the currency. 2% is the highest level of theft that the average person will tolerate without picking up a pitchfork. They use the Consumer Price Index to hide this. This basket includes things like televisions and laptops, things that get cheaper because of technology. But the CPI downplays the things you actually need to survive. It downplays housing, education, and healthcare. While your flat-screen TV has gotten cheaper, the price of a home has tripled. The system points at the cheap TV and tells you that inflation is under control, while the foundation of your actual life is becoming unaffordable. This is the great distraction. They give you cheaper toys to keep you from noticing that they are making your future impossible to buy. Imagine the town where David lives. The authorities have printed so much money and diluted the lemonade so many times that nobody really wants to work at a lemonade stand anymore. Why would you spend 8 hours in the hot sun squeezing lemons for $10 when your neighbor just got a government-backed loan for $1 million to start a lemonade consulting firm? Why would you save your money for a rainy day when the rainy day fund loses value faster than you can fill the jar? This is the stage of the scam where the productive economy, the part where people actually make things, begins to die. and the financial economy, the part where people move paper around, takes over everything. We are living in an era of hyperfinancialization. In a normal world, the financial system is the plumbing. It's supposed to stay in the walls and move money so the house can function. But in our world, the plumbing has become the main attraction. The financial sector in the United States has grown from about 10% of corporate profits in the 1950s to over 30% today. We don't build as much. We just leverage. We take out loans to buy assets, wait for the central bank to print more money to push those prices up, and sell to the next person with an even larger loan. It's a giant circle of debt masquerading as growth. This has created the everything bubble. Because new money has to go somewhere, it has flooded into real estate, stocks, and luxury assets. Anything that can act as a store of value has become a speculative casino. This is why a modest home now costs 10 times the median salary, whereas 40 years ago it cost 3 times. The house hasn't changed. The brick and dirt are the same. What changed is that the house is no longer just a place to live. It has become a life raft for people trying to escape a melting currency. People are desperate to trade dying dollars for anything real, and that desperation pushes reality out of reach for the next generation. This is the ultimate tragedy. The scam steals the future from the young to pay for the mistakes of the old. If you are 25 today, you are starting the game on extreme difficulty. You are competing for housing against billionaire firms with direct access to cheap central bank money. You are being told to work hard by a system that has made work the least efficient way to build wealth. In this system, you don't get rich by being useful. You get rich by being first in line for the new money. But here is the catch. The system is now trapped like an airplane that can only stay in the air if it keeps accelerating. If the central bank stops printing, the debt markets freeze, the bubble pops, and we have a depression. But if they keep printing, the currency eventually dies in hyperinflation. They are stuck between a crash and a collapse. Every time they try to slow down or raise interest rates, something breaks. A bank fails. A market panics. And so, they pivot. They turn the Mangera back on. They pour more water into the lemonade. Yep, you heard that right. The people managing the global economy are not fixing anything. They are just trying to survive until next Tuesday. They are pushing the bill down the road, making the ultimate reckoning larger and more violent. They are betting they can keep the scam going just long enough that it becomes someone else's problem. But the road is running out. We are reaching the point where the debt is so large that the interest alone is becoming unaffordable. We are entering the terminal phase. Think about the Maria we discussed before, or the Arthur who saw the window of opportunity in 2009. They navigated a system that was already fragile. But today's system is significantly more unstable. Debt is higher, trust is lower, and the lemonade is thinner than it has ever been. Once the trust goes, the pieces of paper in your safe don't just lose value. They lose their meaning entirely. The final stage of the lemonade stand scam is not a financial event. It is a psychological one. It's the moment when the neighborhood realizes the lemonade is no longer lemonade and the money is no longer money. When trust evaporates, society doesn't just become poorer, it becomes meaner and more fractured. In a healthy society, you get ahead by providing value, baking bread, fixing cars, squeezing lemons. But in the terminal phase, the smartest people realize providing value is the slow way to get rich. The fast way is to gamble on the inflation itself. This is the rise of financial nihilism. Financial nihilism is the realization that the standard path to success is dead. If you see that 40 years of saving will still leave you with less than your parents had, you stop caring about the long term. You stop playing by the rules because the rules are clearly rigged. This is why we see high-stakes gambling in every corner of life. People aren't buying speculative assets or meme coins because they are stupid. They are doing it because they feel it's their only chance to get to the front of the line before the line disappears entirely. When the currency is being destroyed, the only rational response for many is to take the biggest risks possible. This shift in behavior turns us into looters rather than builders. We start to see our neighbors not as partners, but as competitors for a shrinking pool of real resources. Inflation creates winners and losers by decree. If you own assets, you look like a genius while you sleep. If you trade your time for a wage, you are a prisoner of the present. These two groups live in completely different economic realities, and they don't see a shared future, they see an enemy. This is the social poison that the textbooks never mention. When the printing press is no longer enough to hide the decay, the people in charge don't admit defeat. They double down on control. We are witnessing the birth of the final safeguard of the fiat experiment: central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. It sounds like a technical upgrade, but CBDCs are a fundamental redesign of human freedom. Unlike a physical dollar in David's pocket, a CBDC is programmable money, a direct link between your wallet and the central bank's computer. It is money that can see you, judge you, and most importantly, be turned off. Imagine the authorities decide David is spending too much on unapproved sugar. With a CBDC, they can simply program his digital tokens so they cannot be used at the sugar merchant. Or they can give his savings an expiration date to force him to spend. They call it monetary policy transmission. We should call it a digital leash. The ultimate solution to inflation isn't to stop printing. It's to force you to accept it by making it impossible to exit the system. The lemonade stand has become a total surveillance state where every sip is recorded on a centralized ledger. This is the end game of the everything bubble. When the debt can never be repaid, the only way to keep the system from exploding is to lock the doors. CBDCs are the fire doors. They allow the state to manage the collapse of the currency without losing control of the population. We have moved from a system backed by gold to a system backed by debt to a system backed by surveillance. David started his Saturday squeezing lemons because he wanted a better life. He ends it realizing his very ability to exist in the economy is now a privilege granted by an algorithm. But every extreme system creates an incentive for an exit. Just as the 1971 shift created the inflation of the 70s, the push for digital control is creating the conditions for a new kind of financial sovereignty. There are exit ramps, and in the final part of this story, I'm going to show you exactly how to find them. How do you protect your lemonade stand when the authorities are determined to dilute it until it's just flavored water? The first step is to stop thinking in currency and start thinking in reality. Most people spend their lives accumulating units, dollars, euros, yen, that the people at the top can create for free. You cannot win a game where your opponent has an infinite supply of pieces. You win by trading those pieces for things they cannot print. This is the exit ramp strategy. The first ramp is physical reality. Gold and silver have been the emergency brake of humanity for 5,000 years. They require real labor to extract and cannot be programmed to expire or devalued by a committee. The second ramp is digital reality. Bitcoin is the first lemonade stand owned by no one and accessible to everyone. With a mathematical limit of 21 million units, it is a closed system in an age of infinite dilution. The third and most important ramp is human reality, your earning power. Your brain is the only asset that compounds at the rate you choose. If the dollar loses half its value, a skilled builder or healer simply doubles their price. Their value to society hasn't changed. Your sovereignty begins with providing value independent of the state's permission. Become unscammable by getting out of consumer debt and disconnecting your security from the number on your bank screen. In September of 2008, the world learned that some institutions are too big to fail. What we ignored is the flip side. You are too small to matter. This asymmetry is the heart of the scam. When a bank loses a billion-dollar bet, they get a bailout. When David or Maria makes a mistake, they lose their business or their home. This moral hazard means that the people running the printing press aren't managing an economy. They are managing a social hierarchy. They protect the wealthy's assets at the expense of your wages. So, who does the money belong to? In a fiat system, your money is not an asset. It's a liability of the central bank. Real ownership only begins when you step outside that loop. The system isn't broken, it's a filter. It separates those who understand the nature of money from those who simply consume it. If you are waiting for a politician or a banker to fix the lemonade, you are waiting for a rescue that isn't coming. The rescue is you. The choice to exit the loop is one you make every day, in the skills you learn and the assets you buy. Arthur didn't get lucky. He was prepared. David doesn't have to be a victim. He can be an owner. Don't let the noise drown out the truth. Your life energy is yours. Keep it real.